Mike Strizki, and what company are you with?
Renewable Energy International. We're out of New Jersey, and we're here basically showing the New Jersey Genesis, and we're back again this year. I see I've got a lot more competition than I had last year. Last year I was the only fuel cell vehicle here. I guess the major automakers are taking my lead, huh?
The hydrogen car projects that you've worked on and the hydrogen house that you're now working on.
Well, it all started with the Tour de Sol when I worked for the New Jersey Department of Transportation back in 1997. I was asked by the Cinnamons in high school to help them out with the vehicle they were building for the Tour de Sol, and that kind of got me hooked. After I completed the Tour de Sol with the high school, I talked the Department of Transportation into supporting the event and to building numerous projects. We started out with electric vehicle projects where we did electric station cars that we put in all the train stations in New Jersey to act as a missing link to get people from the train station to the job and back without having that old polluting clunker sitting at the train station. We graduated from there into a project involving fuel cells. We had a company called H-Power in the state of New Jersey, and they were looking for an application for this new device called the fuel cell. Yeah, this was the first vehicle application for sodium borohydride. Company was just going to be public, which was called Millennium Cell, and we worked with them to develop a technology using sodium borohydride and water to store hydrogen to be run through a fuel cell. Technology was that it was pure hydrogen and didn't poison the fuel cell like many reformers do. We went on to set a world record with the Genesis, the car that you see here to my right, of over 470 miles on a single charge, and that record still holds today. It's still about 3 times the range of a standard fuel cell vehicle.
Yep. And what are we looking at right now here in the trunk?
Well, the vehicle, since I'm no longer working for Millennium Cell, the vehicle has since been converted to just gaseous hydrogen, but it still has a range of about 300 miles.
On that?
Yes.
Or are there more tanks than that?
Now, the vehicle itself is a hybrid. The whole purpose of building a hybrid is you don't need that much hydrogen.
So this is a hydrogen-fueled hybrid car?
That's correct. This has GM Ovonic batteries out of the EV1 in it.
Are those the nickel metal hydride?
These are nickel metal hydride.
Cobasys, that kind of battery?
Yes. The vehicle itself has about 120-mile range on the batteries alone.
Wow.
At 55 miles an hour. But remember, this is an all-aluminum car. This car weighs 1,800 pounds.
And you got a connection and a partnership with Ford at that time to make one of these aluminum cars available?
Ford was so impressed by the work we had done the year before that they donated one of these all-aluminum vehicles. This particular vehicle originated out from a special grant between Alcoa Aluminum and Ford Motor Company to test the crashworthiness of aluminum. They built 20 of these cars. They crash tested 17. This is one of 3 left in existence that they offered to the future car teams. I got one, University of Wisconsin got one, and Berkeley got the last one. I don't know if those 2 are still in existence, but I at least can speak for this one.
Yep.
Obviously, aluminum 60% lighter than steel. The lighter you make things, the less power it takes to drive it, which is why you have the exceptional range in this vehicle.
100 miles on batteries, and when you have that tank there filled up, how many miles can you get on the hydrogen?
Almost 200 miles just on the hydrogen alone.
So the car with the battery and the hydrogen does in fact do that magic 300-mile demand.
That's correct. And that's the whole purpose of it. I'm not fueling large subsystems like the typical fuel cell vehicles run 70 kilowatts, 75 kilowatts. I'm doing less than a tenth of that.
And you've got so much battery capacity that 90 to 95% of your miles
is all done off electric.
And electric is so much cheaper and more efficient.
That's right. This can be a plug-in car as well. I have a battery charger, and you just run the hydrogen when you need it. If you're going a long distance or you can't find a plug, you throw a switch and it charges the battery while you're in having dinner.
Now, how did you move over from a plug-in hydrogen nickel metal hydride hybrid car to this combined house car project? How did that get started?
Well, after integrating so many different things, I did a fuel cell fire truck for NASA, I did an airplane, I did a whole number of fuel cell vehicles. the integration was becoming very easy. And at that point, you know, no one had done a house. And I figured, well, you know, my home would be a great candidate since I already have all the toys, the know-how, and
it's a fairly standard home. And Mike Strizki has been working with a bunch of partners, and we're going to be looking at some pictures.
the system is fairly simple. These are the solar panels on the roof. The solar goes into the batteries go into the inverter, which goes into the house load. When there's excess electricity, it goes into the electrolyzer fills the tank. When the batteries run low, the hydrogen goes out through the fuel cell, back to the batteries, back to the house. Simple system. I'm using a separate electrolyzer, I'm using a proton electrolyzer, and I'm using a plug power fuel cell.
What's the efficiency of conversion from electricity to hydrogen and oxygen?
It's about 70%.
And what's the efficiency on the fuel cell side?
It's about 55%.
So if you combine those as a battery, what's the combined efficiency?
Well, the combined efficiency will vary depending on whether you're using the cogen. I'm using cogen on this.
Let's just talk just the electric.
It's about half the energy.
So you got half the energy back out of a solar to electrolyzer to hydrogen and back through and back to.
The energy is free. So what's the difference if you use up half the energy? Because it gives you the ability to use it when you want it. The shelf life of hydrogen's forever.
It's okay with me. I just wanted folks to know.
All right. Well, the other things that folks need to know is how oil gets here. All right. It has to be dug up in the ground in Saudi Arabia, pumped out of the ground, transported across land, pumped into a ship. Ship has to travel halfway around the world. Energy has to be used to pump it off the ship, run it through the processing plant. Energy gets consumed, emissions generated in that. Then it gets put into the pipeline, gets shipped all over the country, goes from the retailer to the distributor, you know, to the wholesaler, then to your house finally.
All halfway around the globe.
Yep.
And that gets me to a question that I might have asked in the beginning, which is, what is the source of your motivation and what is the passion? As you've just mentioned the oil.
Well, the passion is I'm watching all these kids dying over oil, you know, and, you know, everything is mass terrorism. If you take away the funding mechanism, which is the oil money, everything goes away.
So,
plus our gross national product gets to be a lot better. So we're exporting technology instead of importing oil. Sounds like a much better scheme to me, and
that's why I'm here.
The world a better place to begin with. It takes 7 days for the air in China to end up here. So there's no such thing as not in my backyard anymore. Yes, you can generate hydrogen from electricity, so it doesn't matter what the source is. It can be wind, it can be solar, it can be a combination of geothermal, you know, any way that you can normally get electricity. It can be fossil fuel, it can be anything. It can be methane gas from a landfill. It can be aerobic digester from processing sewage gas.
How do you fill up your car from your house?
Well, the car from the house is filled up for the same hydrogen that's stored in the tanks. I basically use a fuel maker to step it up from 200 pounds to 5,000 pounds to fuel the vehicle. And, you know, like I said, it provides cooking and heating and everything. My house has a state-of-the-art geothermal system in it. The geothermal basically takes, for every kilowatt in energy I put in, it gives me 4 out in heat. The electricity cycle is about $1 a day if you were paying for the energy, and you get free hot water. And what happens is as the protons pass through the membrane, it gets in contact with the catalyst, frees the electrons. The electrons flow in the form of electricity.
The electrons have to flow around in the outside circuit because they can't flow through the electrolyte?
That's correct. You know, it's very similar to like you see here. Let's see if we can coax it a little bit. It needs some humidified air. Watch this. How's that for jump starting it, huh?
I like that. Let's go over to the car and look at this big fuel cell.
Okay. This is the fuel cell. This is the battery bank. The inverters you can see are down here on the end. This is the solar array that powers the house and converts all the water into hydrogen gas. And those are stored in these tanks here. They're sitting in the backyard. It stores enough hydrogen to power the house the entire winter. So I've got 3.5 months worth of storage in these tanks.
Just collected from your solar?
Just collected from the solar. It's 19,000 cubic feet I make from excess electricity. There are a lot of areas that only photovoltaics will work. I'm not in a class 3 wind zone. You have to be in a class 3 wind zone to use wind power.
Mike, We're now standing in the front end of the Genesis car, and
Right.
what do we see here?
Well, you see two 5-kilowatt stacks. They're actually 7 kilowatt, but they put out 5 kilowatt net after the subsystem losses. This is basically the power plant that provides the electricity. The hydrogen tank in the back provides your hydrogen gas through these two regulators. They run into you can see this is the hydrogen in here. This is the water in here to cool the stack. And then you have the air in, which is here and here. These are your air in.
And the air carries the oxygen?
The air carries the oxygen.
So it needs the oxygen to react with the hydrogen to make water?
That's correct.
And electricity, of course.
Right. You get freed electrons and you get heat.
And how do you control the humidity in the cells so that they don't dry out?
These are humidifier tubes. Your cooling system circulates the deionized water through these, and it picks up the humidity.
Yep.
The humidity goes in, the humidified air goes into the stack, which helps the reaction. We recover all of the humidified air runs through this condenser box,
Yep.
where it condenses the airstream, all the water drops out, runs through this recirculating pump down here, and the pump pumps it back into the coolant reservoir.
So
This is
water.
This is water positive. This is something we invented. It didn't exist before that. So you have cars equipped with a water recovery system. If we didn't recover the water in the exhaust stream from the humidified air, the car would be water negative, which means every trip you'd have to add water. So what we ended up devising was a way to condense the water in the exhaust stream, which is this box right here. It condenses the water back in, drops it down to a recovery pump that works on a float, and then pumps it back into the fuel cell coolant reservoir. All right, so we're able to have a water positive car. So truly the emissions you get is water, and it's excess water, not what the car needs. The fuel cell requires about 10 pounds of pressure, no more. The tank in the back of the car puts out about 5,000 pounds. So we drop it down. There's one stage regulator back there. This is the second stage regulator. You can see labeled stack 1 and 2. These are stack 1 and 2. So we can regulate the pressure out to the stacks. There's a fuel cell controller right down in here.
Yes.
What it does is there's PWM power points. So there's a current loop in here that measures how much power you're putting out and changes the stoichiometric air to hydrogen ratio necessary to provide the proper tuned power. It's kind of air-fuel ratio of a car. So whatever power level you're putting out, the controller will adjust the air-fuel ratio just like a fuel-injected car to be the proper mix so you get the most power out. If you have too much, you dry it out. If you have too little, the fuel cell will go in reverse.
Now, what advice would you give them when starting out on a project like this, focusing on the car first?
Well, the first thing to do is to do your homework. You have to go back at the history of what was done so you're not subject to repeat the same mistakes that other people have made.
And what else?
The other thing is you got to have the perseverance to take arrows in the back. Anytime you're a pioneer, there's going to be lots of people shooting arrows at you. Believe me, I'm pretty shot up over the last years, doing this. It's not until the last year or two that people have actually taken the work I've done seriously and see that I had the vision. I mean, my life has been before the wave. I've always been before my time. I think you have to be thick-skinned, but I think everything is picking the proper people, and you need a proper mix of all the talents. Nobody has it all. The reason I've made all the projects happen is I select the right project team. You don't need any people that are not with the program or not devoted. Who's ever going to do this, has to set this as a legacy in life to give to this generation and the next generation. I mean, currently right now, people make parts. No one's making systems. I'm a system integrator. No one wants to buy a fuel cell and an electrolyzer and a fueling station and a tank. They want to buy a system. I build systems. I build a package. When you go to the video store, you don't want to buy a videotape and a microphone and all the pieces to make a video camera. You want to buy the whole camera. A lot of people are all married to fossil fuels or collecting revenues off us. Like government collects a huge amount of money off of fuel taxes. What are they going to do if all of a sudden that goes away? I already quit one job because of that.
Oh, really? Why?